Okay, all right. I think we can go and get started then. So I'll go ahead and call the Halifax Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Today is Tuesday, February 20th. In attendance from the Halifax Finance Committee is Frank Johnston, Michael Bennett, Jim Walters, Bill Smith, Cheryl Zarella Burke, and myself, Todd Dargy. Absent is EJ Bryan. This meeting is being conducted remotely and recorded by Area 58. So the first order of business on the agenda today was the acceptance of the Finance Committee meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was February 12th. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Any questions, comments, concerns? No?
I'm good.
Okay, hearing none, then would somebody like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 12th?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote. Frank?
Yes, on the meetings minutes from February 12th.
Jim?
Yes, on the meeting minutes.
Bill?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Motion carries 5-0, and we'll mark you as abstained, Cheryl, because you were absent for the last meeting. Okay. All right. Very good. So then, so thank you for your patience and waiting here. So I see we have everyone for the budget review. So we'll go in order of the agenda, which is the police, fire, and then the library. So I guess Chief Chavez, if you want to kick off, I guess, with your updates. And I don't, Cody, is it actually, do you have a sheet to share, I guess, as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Let's see. Okay. Are you able to see the spreadsheet?
Yep. That's it.
Very good.
All right. So Chief, do you want to just give us the updates on kind of the key movers here, I guess?
You're on mute, Chief.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So we'll start off with line 44. I believe, yeah. So Cody, looks like Cody made the change from the sheets that I have, which includes the my new contract, which this current contract expires on June 30th of 24. So we've negotiated a new 3-year contract, and that reflects the amount. And the reason why this line item is bigger than previous years is because we've included my salary and the deputy's salary, so in that same line. So before it was separated because we didn't have a deputy. So now we've combined both lines, so that reflects the that sum. Is there any questions on that?
I don't have any questions. Anyone on the committee have any questions?
Are we asking about questions just on line 44 or
Yeah, just as we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll go through it and then you guys can ask questions. All right. So then on 45.
So the Chief, one thing to preface this, the reason there's a reduction here from what you requested is because I took out the amount for vacation and sick buyback because we're adding a new line item in the budget. So all sick and vacation buyouts are going to come out of that line item rather than the individual department. So that's the only discrepancy from what you requested here, Chief.
All right. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Yep. So under 45, we've lowered the wages for part-time. We only have one special right now. Everything else is basically the same. We do have the payout for Officer Hengst in July of fiscal 25.
So Chief, just one quick question on your I guess it's a two-parter. So Cody, the buyout for Officer Hingst is in a separate line item. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just looking at what your request was, Chief, for this year, for overtime, you've got 225 in there for your request, which was what was approved last year. But in 22, from 22 to 23, you overran that by about 25,000. Do you anticipate doing that this year also? And should we budget for that in order to appropriately plan?
So, so when it comes to overtime budget, obviously, public safety is difficult to predict.
Mhm.
If we have a major event or anything like that. But we're going to be a full complement by July 1st of 2025. We should be at full complement. We have we just hired one officer. We're in the process of hiring another officer when Sergeant Sterling retires.
Uh-huh.
And then when Officer Hinks retires, we'll hire another new officer. So we should be at full complement. So that overtime line should stay where it's at. I mean, obviously, can't predict if anybody gets injured or
Right.
things of that nature. But I'm pretty confident that we're going to be good with the 225 conservatively.
Okay, for next fiscal year. So you're okay on your spend so far this year?
No, this year we're gonna be we're gonna probably be coming back to you guys at the end with a line item transfer because I've had the one officer on a long-term family leave. We have an officer on maternity. We have an officer that is injured, and we were down one officer. So we've had a lot of overtime, a lot of shift coverages that we've had to take care of. So that's more than likely I'll be coming back to you guys at the end of the year.
Sure. No, understand. And that's certainly something up for discussion when that happens. So my question really is, should we plan for that in the next fiscal year just because you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it?
Well,
it's just a thought. I mean, it's obviously your department.
No, I mean, obviously, I mean, if we want to bring that up to 240, that's solely up to the finance committee. It give me a little more leeway, obviously. And then if I don't need it, I don't need it. But that's totally up to the to you guys.
Right.
Well, there's typically a high probability that you're going to exceed your labor numbers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And let's say like the last 3-4 years, what's the average that you've exceeded? Maybe we can just factor in an average of that.
One thing to note is so overtime may go over, right? But maybe the regular wages don't go over because we don't have an officer, right? Let's say we're down an officer, right? So we have some available in full-time wages. But because of that, we have to have more overtime, right? So I think this is a pretty good number. It's like Chief said, it's hard. You never know. But I think this is a pretty good number with everything that we can consider. This is pretty stable. Right. And then if anything kind of extraordinary happens, then we can react. But I think this is a pretty solid budget that takes some things into account that we can anticipate.
Right. We also are basing the regular full-time with Officer Hingst in the mix so that when he leaves, we'll be hiring an officer at a lower rate. Right. So that's one of the changes. Same thing, we'll be getting a new officer for Sergeant Sterling. And that helps. In the past, probably 3 or 4 years, we've turned money back in the police wages. We've even been able to do line item transfers from the wage accounts into the expense.
Yeah. So prior to the fiscal 23-24 budgets, you've had a positive back to you, Sandy? Is that what you're saying?
Even in 23. And 23, we still had money turned back in.
Yeah, so 24 then is,
Well, 24 is going on now, so we don't
Right.
know. And like, like Cody said, we basically have to wait and see how it all comes out by the end of the
Fiscal year.
fiscal year, yeah.
Right. Going on to 47, which is the administrative assistant, executive assistant. I'm not sure if Cody made the changes on his spreadsheet.
So Chief, this 66,359 that I have that you requested includes the 10,000 for a part-time position. But I will know I have a unique idea that I will be discussing with you next week that I don't think we'll need that.
Okay, and it does take in consideration the retro and the well, not the retro, but the reclassification for the executive assistant.
Yeah,
Okay.
so 56,359 takes all of that into consideration except for the additional staff, part-time staff.
All right. Then on line item 48, which is our expense account, it's again level funded as in the past years as asked by FinCom, and so the only I think I'll be okay with the 70. Obviously, we've had an increase in the IT portion of and licensing fees and all that. Everything else is pretty much kind of stay the same. In the past 3 fiscal years, we've been at 68, 69. We're currently at 41. I'm sorry, 72, 68, 69, and we're currently at 41,000 in our expense account. So I think we should be able to manage with that. We consolidated a lot of these other items to make everything smoother, and you'll see that next fiscal year. So basically, like a lot of the basically things like office supplies and equipment furniture have all been placed into one line. Specialty clothing equipment have also been placed into the clothing allowance, not clothing allowance, but the recruits first issue, things of that nature. So it'll be a little cleaner format for next fiscal year. But I think I'm pretty comfortable with the 70 that I'm requesting.
Chief, where's the cost for the police dog at?
So the police dog, there's no right now it's being funded through the district attorney's office and also through a gift account that we have, and we just got notified by the DA's office that we're going to be getting another I believe he's putting aside $5,000 for each current department that has a comfort dog, $3,000 for each department that has a dog to set up a kennel in the cruiser with environmental controls and a camera. So a lot of the money is coming from the DA's office. It really hasn't cost the department any money as of yet, and I think the DA's office is really supportive of this comfort dog program. Basically, his goal is to place a comfort dog in every town in Plymouth County. I think he's got 6 spots available left. So I think we'll be fine with the comfort dog stuff.
And that includes upgrading the cruiser?
So that money is coming from the DA's office as well. He's allocated $3,000 for a new kennel that will have a camera that the officer can view the dog from his phone, from an app, and also environmental controls for heat, to roll the windows down and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
46, which is police training. It's level funded. Again, we just made some cleanup on it. It's just going to be tuition and ammunition, instead of all the other the mileage and supplies and all that. We're going to incorporate it into just 2 lines, and we should be good with the 10,000.
That'll cover the new offices you're bringing in as well, Chief?
Yeah, because this is just basically like collateral training that the officers attend, some in-service stuff. So it'll cover everybody. Mm-hmm. 49 is station maintenance. So this one's an issue right now, for fiscal 24. At the way we're spending money on electricity, we're going to probably be almost at about $4,800 in deficit at the end of this fiscal year. So back in fiscal, going back all the way to fiscal 20, this budget was 24,100, and then because of the electrical rates that we were able to obtain, we took it down to 20,000, and right now, I know that Cody's bringing somebody on board, and they're assessing the electricity spending in for the entire town. I'm just a little apprehensive about going into fiscal 25 with the 20,000, but maybe Cody can speak to it with the kind of the rates that they might be able to obtain. But right now, at the current, so my balance right now is 11,520, and the average for the last 6 months has been like 1,645. So I'm looking at probably like $4,800 in the red in the electricity budget. And that's obviously out of our control. It's just that the rates went up. I mean, I was the past year monthly were about $1,420, and now we're at almost 16. This last bill was 22, 24. So it's a significant increase, and our usage really hasn't changed at all. I mean, we have the lights at the station set up for motion, so they only turn on when there's motion, because obviously the station goes dark after 5 o'clock. So nothing really has changed in our usage. It's just the rates have increased. And then the last item is 67, which is the ACO budget, and that's a contract that we have with Precision Wildlife. The contract expires on June 30th for $29,952. We still haven't received any new contract proposal. I've been in contact with the owner on 3 different occasions, and I'm still waiting for a response from him for a contract proposal for the ACO budget. And that's all inclusive.
Is that the contractor out of East Bridgewater or Bridgewater?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Did I miss anything? I'm trying to my paper.
Yeah.
Just cruiser maintenance, chief, but you level funded that at 13,000.
Yeah. The cruiser maintenance again. It's like I've mentioned before to you, with our revolving program of getting the 2 cruisers, we've been able to maintain that at 13. So level funded again for fiscal 25.
Now, what if we only go with the 1 cruiser upgrade?
Well,
I guess do you know what that would do? I guess to that.
Like for fiscal 25, just 1 cruiser.
Yeah, just is there a way to quantify? I guess what?
Yeah, I don't think we would be seeing the big depreciation until probably fiscal 26, because then the fleet would be older.
Yeah.
I think we'd be in pretty good shape. Obviously, again, it's one of those things you can't predict something happening to the cruisers, but the reason why, if anything major would occur, it would still be under warranty. If we go into fiscal, by the time we get to fiscal 26, some of the cruisers will already be beyond warranty, so it might be an issue. But for right now, I'm pretty comfortable, with if we have, we have to take a cruiser out, that would be able to sustain it. But I would prefer not to, because I had proposed that just have to take the 1 cruiser off this past, and then we still got the 2. So that's what I'd like to continue with, maintain that program.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sounds good. Any other questions for Chief before we let him go from anyone?
I've got one, Todd.
Okay. Go ahead, Frank.
Regarding the animal control officer, do you think he's going to come back for the contract, Chief, or?
Your guess is as good as mine. Like I said, I've emailed them on 3 different occasions. I've asked them for a contract. I know we've had some discussions, myself and Cody, in regards to what happens if he doesn't. We can implement some other things to address that issue. But right now, we're still waiting on him.
Yeah, because that's where I was kind of going with it. Get caught at the end with no contract, and do we have enough money budgeted for if we can even find somebody else to do it? Because I remember didn't we have a little bit of trouble getting somebody to take the bid anyhow?
Yeah, we so when we were looking just for strictly an animal control officer, obviously we had a wide variety of people that applied from vet techs with no experience to somebody that was willing to do it, but they were already working at 2 different agencies, and then this presented itself where they're fully equipped. They supplied the cruiser. They supplied the, we let them utilize our equipment, but they supply everything else. So it was a great help to us. I mean, if he doesn't come, put in a request for a contract, it would fall under the responsibility of the designated police officer to take care of those ACO duties. It's right in the patrolman's contract that if they have to take over the ACA duties, unless we could find somebody else. Obviously, it'd be nice to keep the contract, because again, it's a great service. They have the vans, they have the equipment, they have the training. We wouldn't have to send an officer to the animal control academy per se, to learn all the different things with animal control, because I'm not sure if we're state required, but I know that if we have an ACO, that they have to be certified by the state when they're dealing with animals and such.
How many incidents did you have this year that required the ACO? Just curious. You can ballpark it, 20, 30, 50.
Oh no, a lot more than that. So
yeah.
So they're basically they're an on-call service. So we call them out and then they respond. Obviously, if it's something that's public safety related, where immediate response has to occur, the officers go there first, and then he could do some follow up if there's a bite report or anything like that. But yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but
Sure.
yeah, it's more than it's probably in the hundreds.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
What about doing a regional program with a surrounding town and paying a user fee?
That might be something else that we can look at. I know, I believe Plimpton is doing something with Carver. I know that when we were without an animal control officer, we were utilizing, I believe, Pembroke as animal control. He would come down, but I think he's already doing 2 or 3 towns. So yeah, so we'd definitely be open to that, something like that.
That's what we do when the other town pays us a user fee, and it works out well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be a lot cheaper than that right there.
Right. Yeah, that's something we could look at.
All right, great. Anything else for Chief? No? Okay, all right, well, thank you, Chief, for your time. We appreciate you taking us through.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, and then Chief Woodham, I guess you're up if you're ready to go here.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we're here.
All right. Sounds great. I guess I'll start off with line 51 and 52. Obviously, line 51 is my salary. That's contractual. That's why it's put in there that way. Line 52 is obviously the executive assistant's pay that was kind of set as well with the last evaluation we just did. When you get into fire wages, we get a lot of stuff that came into play. The new contract, a lot of the new contract stuff that they recently signed came into play. Under wages, we also had an increase in our overtime budget. We had quite a shortfall there in our overtime budget originally. And I think for the 23-24, town approved the 133, but the years before that was 188, 599, 151, 779, 139, 685 the 3 years prior to that. So obviously we saw a deficit there, and I knew I needed to make up some kind of funding on that end. So there was a little bit of an increase there. We had some of the increase in the wages was the incentives, which was basically contractual. A lot of that is the certifications that they have. They earn money for each certification, in each certification beyond that as well. So we did quite a bit of change in our department, some senior members to junior members now. Some of the junior members are now taking college classes, more incentives, things like that, getting more certifications. We need to keep up with the contractual obligations. So I did increase a lot of that. On the paperwork that Cody has up now, on full-time wages and the part-time wages, there's a significant difference there. Cody, do you want me to get into that, or?
Yeah, you can just go brief of what kind of the switch that you're proposing.
Okay, so basically we were having a hard time filling some of our part-time shifts, and when obviously we couldn't fill our part-time shifts and trying to maintain 3 members on at all times. So when the part-time shifts weren't able to be filled, we would end up paying overtime to fill those. 2 months ago, we ended up paying like $9,000 in overtime just to fill those shifts to make sure that we had the manpower where we were. The next couple of months was 7,000 and 6,500, I believe, after that. So I recognize an issue that's going on. It's becoming harder and harder to find part-time members, A, that are certified in firefighter 1-2, and B, that are certified as EMTs. It's becoming increasingly hard to do that. So right now I had about 4 members that were filling all of the shifts that we have. Try to find a solution to come up with some ideas, looking at the budget as well as what we had structurally for manpower. Trying to find more call members is what I have done as step number 1. Again, it's kind of difficult to do, but it's not really a permanent solution in the sense that I could hire somebody, they could tell me they want to work a ton of shifts, don't put in for the shifts, or get hired somewhere else and they take off. So what my thought was to reallocate some funding to make this more of a permanent solution, take some of our part-time wages and move them to full-time wages and get 2 more full-time members. And what this will do is we'll put 3 full-time members on and I would have to change the way that we run the call members. So currently we have 10 full-time members, and I know this is extremely difficult to understand, but we have 10 full-time members and we have 4 shifts. So we have 2 members on each shift, and then we have 2 members that are float. So the float members, one would work group 1 and group 2, the other ones work 3 and 4. So we have 2 open slots that we have to fill day and night with call members. And if there's any vacation time, comp time, sick time, things like that we can't fill, it's offered to full-time first, and then it goes to call members. So they obviously work a bunch of shifts as well. So what my thought is to take some of that money, reallocate it into full-time members, which guarantees me 3 members on during the day and 3 paramedics on during the day. And what I would have to do is do the part-time members run them a little bit different. What my plan was to run them Sunday to Sunday every day and increase our manpower for those days to 4 during the day, where we currently run 3. The benefit to that would be I would be able to man 2 different pieces of apparatus, meaning if the first ambulance goes out, we currently do a recall, try to get somebody in, which we're at about 19% right now on filling those. We've currently missed approximately 70, or was slated to miss about 70 to 70 something runs for the ambulance that we're sending out mutual aid because we don't have the manpower to do that. So looking at the hours of 7 in the morning to 7 at night, that's when most of our calls come in. By increasing our manpower, we're going to be decreasing the overtime and everything else. What I mean by that is the current shifts that we have, we run 3. If one person calls out sick or we can't fill a shift, we have to hold. If it's a holdover for a call member, it's double time. And a regular, obviously, overtime would be time and a half. I could eliminate some of that by guaranteeing the 4 during the day. If I can't fill the call member shift, then I can run 3. I'm still running the same manpower that I have. I looked at this in a bunch of different ways, and the best solution that I came up with is what I'm proposing here. I think it'll A, save me money in the long run in overtime, and B, give us more manpower during the day for basically a very little bit of funding. The benefit would be able to staff more vehicles. I'd be able to gain those extra ambulance calls during the day and create revenue. And also it's, beneficial to have more manpower in the town and at all times. At nighttime, it would still run the same service. I would still run 3. The benefit there would be that I would have 3 paramedics working compared to maybe 1. In some cases, if somebody bangs out, we can't fill a full time, it goes to call. We might have 2 call members on that are EMTs. So, and that still could happen. I'm not going to lie to you. We have 2 members that are out. One's out on vacation, one calls out sick. But the odds are a lot less at this point. So that's why I was looking. That's why you see the significant change. The 140,000 came from part-time wages. I moved it up into full-time wages to create those 2 positions, and that's why the significant number changes are there. As far as the overtime wages, like I said, if you look at the 133 and then the 188 and the 151, this year, currently I've had a significant amount of overtime this year. I've had 3 members out on FMLA, one for the full 12 weeks, one for like 2 months, and the other one for about a month and a half. I had another member that came on that was technically out on FMLA, but he didn't have the time. So he used all the sick time, comp time, swaps, everything else, which ended up costing me as well. I had a couple people that had an injury, and it just added up very quickly. So that's why a lot of that was added. Incentives on there, the line increase, actually, those are just contractual stuff that we needed to maintain in the contracts. Any questions? I know it's kind of complicated, but I've looked at all of the avenues. If I don't do anything right now, right now my overtime budget is down to, I've used up 98% of my overtime budget at this point. So if I don't do something for next year in regards to trying to fix this issue, I think it's going to continue and it's going to be worse next year.
Chief, so this takes into account hiring a couple of new firefighters, correct?
That's correct. Taking the wages from the part-time, moving them over to hire two full-time members.
And then running with your normal 12 or 13, whatever you have, in part-time guys that potentially are available?
Yes. So what that would be is, like I said, instead of using the part-time members on a day-night basis like I am now, I would have them working just day shifts to give me the complement of 4 during the day. And then obviously, that would still be, they could work night shifts as well if the full-time members take a vacation time that can't be filled, comp time, sick time, things like that. But it would change drastically on how I run the department. But I think it's beneficial for the community, the town, myself, and the budget.
So the head count would go to 12 then from 10.
Head count would go to 12, which in theory, if I have 4 shifts, that gives me 3 full-time members each shift. And that gives me a paramedic, 3 paramedics each shift, where I currently don't have. Any questions? No?
Any other questions on the staffing part? I just had a question on the, going back to the incentives there, I guess. So that 16,000 for incentives, so that's for if they take additional educational classes, right?
Yeah, so the incentives are mostly certification. So the Fire Academy has classes that they have to take to maintain being a firefighter. So a lot of those are like officer classes, code enforcement classes, things like that would increase that knowledge of that person out in the field. So each year they offer different classes throughout the academy. They're all over the place, and those are the classes and the incentives that I'm talking about. As you see the difference, what the town approved to this year, only because we've had some members that have changed from senior members to obviously newer members that don't have as many certifications as well too. So that had to do with changing some of it.
So is that an annual stipend that I guess that they receive once they get those certifications, or?
That's each year they get that. That's correct.
Okay. Because we pay for the tuition separately, right, for them to take those courses?
So that's part of in the training budget as well. Yes, in my training.
Yeah, but as a separate line item, right? So it's 2.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
When do they get paid for the incentives? Upon completion or on their anniversary?
So what happens is once they get a certification, they give it to me, and then obviously once they get the certification, the paper's in my hand, that they can get paid for it. Until then, they can't. So it's upon completion of the certification, then they can start getting paid for that specific certification. That answers your question. The first one is $1,000 contractually, and after that, it's $250 each one.
But I guess for the subsequent years, I guess, do they get that at the beginning of the fiscal period, or like what's the?
We have to wrap it into their wages.
Oh, so it's just allocated basically across the year?
Yeah, prorated basically.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Now, do they have to notify you prior to your formulating your budget that they're going for these certifications?
They don't have to notify me. No, not for that specific, the incentives. A lot of them will tell me, hey, I plan on doing a couple things this year. But no, it's just based on, so the problem that we had is even during COVID, a lot of classes weren't being offered and everything else. So, now that things started turning around, there's more and more classes. There was a lot of people that were going to classes. It's kind of calming down a little bit now. But there are classes that are out there that they haven't been offered in quite a while, and they're very hard to get into. So there are people taking those progressive classes in order to get the next step in their promotion and everything else.
They are required to notify Chief Witham by the end of January. Is it the end of January, Mike?
Beginning of January for education.
Yeah, so if they're going to take advantage of the tuition reimbursement, they have to notify him in January in writing, or if they're going to be eligible for the next fiscal year, so we can budget for it.
Yes.
Carol, you have a question?
So if they don't notify you, they don't get to go then, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If they don't notify you by the time limit, they're not qualified to go that year, correct?
That's for education incentive. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, right.
Carol, you have a question?
And do they pay full tuition? Do we pay full tuition? Do we pay their full tuition?
For education incentive, which is a different thing, education incentive is 50% of the base tuition.
Okay,
Up to 2,500. We capped it at 2,500 this last contract.
okay.
Any other questions on that? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay, under expenses, there wasn't a ton of changes in my expenses. My communication equipment, I increased by $2,000. I need to get some more radios for the engine, both engines and the tower truck. I need to do that. There was equipment, so turnout gear on here. Turnout gear on here is basically what was shown as for new hires only. Anytime we get a new hire that walks through the door, I need some equipment. So obviously to outfit them, to get them so that they have some equipment. Years past, we've been trying to fit or retrofit, so to speak, what we had in stock and try to get only the gear that we had, only because we've had so many members walk through the door. We had quite a changeover in the last couple of years. So that really, ate up most of that budget and went right through it. But that was one of the changes that we dropped, actually.
And so, sorry, Chief, quick question on that, I guess. Can you just remind me on the amounts, I guess? Does that cover 2 sets of turnout gear, I guess, or?
So it's $6,200, so it's like 3 sets of gear, 3 and a little bit.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. So that'd be like if we had 3 new members come through the door, that would fully outfit them and everything else.
And then, so sorry, and then so in relation to that, I guess, with the potential changeover from the part-time to the full-time employees, are those roles, I guess, expected to be filled by the existing part-time folks, I guess, that are?
Not at this time, only because in order to be a full-time member, you need to be a paramedic, and none of our call members that would be able to take the job are paramedics. We do have some call members that are paramedics, but they work full-time in another place.
Okay, so that change then is gonna require additional sets of gear just to fill those roles then, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's correct.
okay. All right, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem. I don't really see any. I kept everything else as level service funded as I could. Wasn't a huge significant change on my expenses. Questions? No.
Any questions for the chief?
No.
Okay. Under station maintenance, I added an additional $2,000. We're having a problem with the apparatus floor. We have it peeling and bubbling in certain areas. I had to add a little bit of money into that to have a company come in and fix that and repair that. If we don't repair it, we don't keep up on it. It just keeps going and going and going. We end up more and more issues. So I did add a little bit of money in for that. And obviously the cost of like Chief Jobs was just talking about the electricity. We've been fine, okay, so far, but hopefully we can work everything out with the budget we have. Under the next one, any questions on that? Sorry. All right, fire vehicle maintenance. Obviously, this is something that went up a little bit. We've had some additional charges that we're going to have to take care of with testing of the ladders, testing of ground ladders. Anytime it goes to any specialty vehicle place or anything like that, there's an increase in that. Just like bringing your car anywhere right now, all of the costs have gone up significantly, and I added a little bit in to take care of that.
Does that include your air gear as well in that number?
That does not. Nope.
Where's that
That's
come in and play at?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Where does the cost?
We had a call going out. I apologize. The tones are going off in the background.
Where does the cost for maintenance of the air gear certifications, the bottles, the
so on my
hoses?
That's on my regular expenses right now. So I have that. They come in and they service it and they hydro it. So we're good for hydro. We just did hydro last year, so we're good for 5 years on hydro. The rest of the stuff we've just been kind of replacing as needed, but it's under my expenses. So I do keep an eye on that. I just did an inventory on that, what we have in stock and what we need. We're currently okay. We're tight as far as how many units we have, but I think we're good. Ambulance supplies, I kept pretty much the same. That was something I went back and forth with quite a bit. I kind of thought that would have to increase that again, only because the cost of everything has gone up, and especially if it's, an EMS supply. I spoke with the local dealer that we deal with all the time, and he informed me that, I should be okay where I'm at. Some of the cost of things that were escalated during COVID have come down a little bit, and I think I should be good. So I left it pretty much where it is. Ambulance billing was a little bit of an increase there, not much. Obviously, the ambulance billing, the more runs we do, the more they charge us. We keep doing more and more ambulance calls each year. You know how that goes. It's just one of those things that each year it progressively gets more and more and more. So some of the stuff in there, the software, things like that, they make us upgrade and everything else. That's just a mandatory thing we have to keep up with each year. Emergency management, I cut back a little bit on the emergency management, obviously, because when I was having discussions with Cody, obviously money's tight. We're trying to do what we can. So we cut that back just a little bit. I still think we'll be okay there, no matter what we do. We've opened a warming station a couple times, but we've been fortunate that it really hasn't cost us anything to do that. We haven't anything significant as far as storms that we needed anything else other than that, and I think we'll be good.
Did you share some of that cost with the health department too?
I'm sorry?
You share some of that cost with the health department as well?
These line items, no.
No?
So he has his own line items that he uses. This is just basically for sheltering purposes, any supplies that we need. If we have to keep somebody there during the night, like or during the day, like a paramedic or, an EMT or something like that. Anybody have any questions at all, or anything I can explain better?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right, Gene, I think you're up now if you're available. Gene, you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still here. How's
All right.
everybody?
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks for your
Good.
patience. Appreciate it.
Oh, very interesting. I know we have a couple of new people on the board. So if you'll just indulge me on how the library budget works. We're mandated by the state on a couple of things. The most important thing is the increase that we're required to have the town appropriate. So if you look onto the right-hand side of my sheet, you take the TAMI, which is the total appropriated municipal income over the last 3 years. You take that average, and then you have to add 2.5%. So yep. So my TAMI for FY25, or my requirement, that's what I'm required to have. So it's not my TAMI, it's what I'm required. So this year for FY25, I'm only required to have 349,160. Then we had the wage study done, and so I'm going to go way over my requirement this year because of the increases in the wages and the increase in my salary. And I have a TAMI. And you want to remember, my TAMI next year is going to be applied to, I have to use that TAMI next year when I'm seeing what I need for the following year. So in years past, we've always tried to keep my TAMI and my requirement just about the same number, but we couldn't do that this year because of the increase in my wages. So the budget basically is made up of 3 parts: wages, which is a fixed cost. Went over that with, and thank you to Cody and Jim and Sandy. Obviously, we went over that a number of times. So that's a fixed cost, and that's what we came up with. It includes 2 staff meetings a year, and it includes $1,500 for not overtime, but to cover, like if somebody's sick and I need somebody to come in, so extra hours. And any of that I don't use gets turned back to the town. So those two are fixed numbers. And then we have the expense part. The expense part is made up of two parts: the materials, which is how, like books, e-audio books, magazines, any materials that is considered that they're checked out, that's considered a material. And then lastly, my supplies and the electric and the postage. Just like all the other departments, the library is being hit pretty hard with the electric bill. We are, for some reason, doing pretty well this year. Now that the winter is here, I think the heat works better than the AC in the building. So it's hard to tell, but I'm doing pretty well, and I think I've paid probably seven bills. But looking over what I've had in the past, we decided to increase my electric to $15,150. I went down a little in supplies to kind of keep. Remember, I don't want my Tammy to be too high, because that's just going to increase it next year. So we were very careful about that. So I have the electricity, I have the postage, my office supplies. And now where it said, I had a question about this today, where it says computers. Oh, no, that's not that. What's that? Books and materials. Okay. So that was all said and done. And this is what I submitted. And then I was talking to Ellen, and she's been a library director and she's been in the field for a very long time. And we were going over the budget. And the big thing that happened this year with the budget and trying to keep my Tammy reasonable was that I took out traditionally my network fees, which was my sticky note, which last year they were about $17,000. So traditionally my network fees, which is paid to the sales network and what keeps me in the network, I split that. So I take some money out of my expense account and some out of my town appropriated budget and some money out of an incentive grant. And this year, to kind of keep my Tammy low, we took all of my network fees, and we want to pay for that out of my incentive grant. And we have some concerns about that because my incentive grant is state aid and it's state money. In FY23, I got $16,236.40 from the state. In FY24, I got $18,778.70 from the state. And that I use to just anything that I can't take out of my regular budget, I take out of my incentive grant. So I'm concerned that taking network fees, the entire network fee, here's the number. Last year, the network fees were, I don't add that, but it's was $13,000. I took $8,164 out of my regular budget, and then I used $5,126 out of my incentive grant. Also, what I else take out of the incentive grant is additional monies to sales, PC support, PC, a flat fee for PC, my Wi-Fi wireless service, which counts the number of wireless hits that I get, and that's all for state reporting. my event keeper and Tix keeper and Elementor. And so last year I spent almost 3,400 just on additional fees. So just to stay in the network and to keep things running, last year it cost me $17,000. So to take that all out of my incentive grant doesn't seem like that's gonna, that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. It doesn't seem like it's gonna last or be anything that I can maintain.
Gene, I have a question, because you've kind of changed your tune since we met, and you said you had no concerns on this, because you haven't been using it, and you have, I believe, excess of $30,000 in there.
Yep.
So I just don't know what's happened, because we met, you, myself, Jim, Sandy was involved in the initial meeting.
Yep.
And you were okay with it, which is why we made the change. We wouldn't have made a change if you didn't agree with it.
So I think I did agree with it. And then I was talking to Ellen, who is actually here, and if I could allow her to speak at some point if we need to. But I think when we had talked about that, I said that I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to maintain that. In the past, we used to take everything out of the incentive grant as far as the network fees. But it just seems like going forward, my state aid might not be that. Like, you know, last year it was $1,800, and then the year before it was $1,600. I don't know. That's a flexible number. I don't know what that number is going to be.
Okay, if I can speak up here now.
Yes, hi, Ellen.
Hi. The state really encourages best practices to appropriate enough money from the town to cover the network cost in total, actually. So to take it out completely struck me as being pretty dangerous. You have to think of the network cost as being a utility. It's really, without the network, without being part of the network, the library would be depleted considerably. And so it's really much more of a utility cost than it is anything else. So it made me quite concerned when I saw you remove it completely from the town appropriated funding. There's more movement available in the books and materials, and I think we can stick to the bottom line, but internally within the budget, I think it's really important for the library to be trying to achieve a stronger sense of commitment to the network as a basic part of the budget, not just something to be paid for out of a grant. That's the philosophy. And I don't think it changes the bottom line at all. It's just a question of how you spend that bottom line. If you understand what I'm saying.
I do. I certainly understand it. My concern is twofold in the change of philosophy compared to our meetings, but also just, the town's in a very tight financial situation. So we're looking at, different opportunities. And when I view a revenue source that we're not utilizing, that can be utilized, we have to explore that, because we're not using the funding from the state completely. So if we can use it to cover some costs, that seems to be, something that we should move forward with.
It's certainly reasonable. It traditionally, the state grant funding is usually spent on like one-time costs. Like, I know that we need a new projector system in the program room, that type of thing, and also programming. Is sending people. I see that there's no money in here for mileage or dues. There's a little bit of money in here for dues, but mileage, sending people to meetings, that sort of thing, that could be used more, that the incentive grants could be used more appropriately for that. But taking a fundamental part of the budget, such as the network subscription, out of a incentive grant is just kind of dangerous, and it's certainly not it's not considered best practice at a state level. So that's something that you should know.
Can we just get a little more
well,
clarity?
Can I just say there was so this we were going over the budget, and then Ellen reminded me, and I never seen this before, because we've always like met my material budget at 19%. So of all the information that I have from the state, I didn't know that because the library, and I sent that information to you, a materials flexibility chart. The library is open 41 hours a week. So that puts us in a different population group. And so because we're open 41 hours a week, we don't have to spend 19%. We only have to spend 16% on materials, and that's to get our full state funding and state aid. So it's not a reduction at all. And as Ellen and I were talking about it, she was reminded of this and reminded me of that. So she sent that to me, and I sent it to you guys. So I'm not changing the bottom line of my budget, but instead of using, 19% of materials, I want to use 16% and use that difference to pay for some of the network fees. So the bottom line doesn't change. But because she brought up that point about the 16% in materials, that's what brought all this up. So.
No, and that's a great point. But if we were to stick with the original plan, we could still move forward with the 16% and just reduce your overall increase, because while I recognize it is a result of wages, it is still, we're talking a significant increase percentage wise in the overall budget here. So, that's a decision we need to work through.
I would not recommend that. I think you should stick with the original bottom line budget that you've agreed on.
Well, no, we haven't agreed. We didn't agree on anything.
Oh, okay.
And Ellen, the concern is we're required to spend a certain amount. And with the wage increases, you're now 30,000 over what we're required to spend. And that will affect us every year from this point on. That's when you look at that bottom line, when most of the departments are being held to level fund, and then this is going up $30,000 over what we're required, which is already a 2.5% increase. So it's just hard to swallow. If there was another way to do it, that would be great, to bring that back down closer to the 349,160. That's what I would like to see.
I also think, if we were utilizing the state monies for something else, and you were here saying we'd have to stop doing XYZ, right, to now utilize this funding for the network fees, I would be in total agreement with you. But we have a history of not using it, right? That money is sitting there year to year. That's revenue. We have to be.
Can I just ask you one
we have to be efficient with how we use our revenues and expenditures.
Yeah, I think that we do need to best practices, though, in terms of what money should be spent for what purposes. And I can sympathize. The thing is that the budget, because of the large increase in wages and salaries, is going to be larger, from year to year. So at some point you have to swallow that pill, and to think that because there is a little bit more flexibility in the materials, we can pay for that network fee. It makes me very nervous to think that you're going to be spending network fees out of it may be a fair amount of money right now, but in my experience with those grants is that you there may be something that comes up, you know, as an emergency that needs to be paid for out of them, and then it's not there. It's not encouraged to use grant money for an ongoing expense. I think you probably understand why that is true.
And I'm sorry, I just have a question here. Sorry. So on row 34 there, Cody, for network fees, are these not the same network fees we're discussing, or is this something separate? Or
no, those are the network fees that we're discussing. My
so those are
original
already
budget that I
those are inclusive
submitted.
into the 72,000, right? That's in the budget for the line item, right? So I guess
So
that's where
what
I'm
I did
confused.
is
It
I
seems like it's
reduced
already
that
included.
It's an internal movement.
Right. But it goes back to, we thought we had to have that as a minimum. So we increased the budget because we thought that was the minimum we had to have, not realizing that there was the 16% option, which Ellen, was gracious enough to bring forward. So the idea was, and we just got this information, I think it was Thursday evening.
Friday morning.
Friday morning, since Jim and I had met with Gene a few times, and Sandy. So this information all came after the fact. So we haven't had a time really to sit down and go over this, but it could be less of an increase is the point, in trying to decrease that 3-year average in this year's amount. And I guess if that's something that we don't want to do, I would request that, how are we going to start using this money from the state? And also, I would use the term grant loosely, because it's not a discretionary grant. It's part of our state aid. So, it might be considered a grant by the state, but it's not a discretionary grant that we apply for every year. We get these library fundings annually.
In a sense, we do apply by being certified. We could become decertified, and that would mean we would lose our grants.
Well, it's not a competitive application process.
No.
Clarified.
That's not.
So if we're not using it, that's my biggest thing here. If we were using it, I would be in total agreement, but we're not using revenue, and it's sitting there, and we could be utilizing it and decreasing our overall budget, which would be a logical thing to do.
Well, so can I speak to that a little on the incentive grant and us not using it? So there is a significant amount of money. I think I have like $36,000 or $39,000. And it's unusual that I have that much money. The state aid has increased, but the biggest part of that is I haven't spent that as we went through COVID, and we, were closed for almost a year. And then there wasn't anything, that I bought. Typically, I'm spending most of my state aid on printers, or sometimes computers. Sometimes I've used it for ink. So there is that much money in there because I haven't spent it over the last few years.
And so, sorry,
using it.
So where is that money sitting? I guess, can you just?
So that money's sitting in we call it the incentive grant budget. And there's no stipulations on how I can spend it. It rolls over every year, and it's kind of like my savings account. So if something happens in the building and it's not covered by my regular expense account, or I don't have that. One year I had to put a phone system in because all of a sudden the phones just left. Now I know that's not going to happen because, Caesar put in the whole phone system. But in the past, sometimes things just break, and it's a huge expense for the library. And that's what my savings account is for. And my concern is if, my network fees this year again is going to, total $17,000 or $15,000. And my state aid this year is going to be $16,000 or $17,000. I know I have that money now, but how long is that going to last if I'm going to take a huge portion of that out now? So that's why I thought this was a good idea.
How much of that money from the 39,000 that you didn't use during COVID, what was that number that you didn't use during COVID?
Probably, most of my money. So besides my, the sales network fees that I kind of split with my regular budget and my incentive grant, and then all like my PC support, that extra, the $3,300. I didn't really spend it. I bought a couple of printers, so probably over the last few years, I don't have the exact figure, but I've spent probably a couple of $1,000s out of that.
Yeah, but out of 2,000, out of how much from COVID that you didn't spend? How much did you have from COVID?
Well, over the last 2 years, I don't have the other figures, but over the last 2 years, it's $34,000 that's been put into my my incentive grant, my state aid.
So $34,000 is from COVID?
$34,000 is my state aid that I received over 2 fiscal years.
So how much
around 17 a year?
17,000 each year.
Yes, average.
Thereabouts, Frank. It was probably, I think it was around 16.5 last year, and then probably around 15 or so the year before. So cumulatively, it's 34.
So what's the projected forecast for this year?
The projected forecast for this year, I believe
20,257.
Right.
So we're going to have $54,000.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, well, this is a big number we're talking about here that we're sandbagging.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would mention too, if unexpected
what does sandbagging mean?
Sandbagging means we're holding back funds that can be utilized in another fashion.
Okay.
I would mention if something comes up at the library unexpected, so we have a reserve fund. You're a department, the library is a department just like any other department in the town. If there's unexpected emergency costs for something, you present it to the finance committee and they can approve a reserve fund transfer.
Correct.
We also took off, so at one point, a few years back, when we had a big turnover at the library, and there was a lot of money in the wages. We used all of those wages to update 21 computers in the library. And we said, you know what, we shouldn't get into that position again. So we had a town meeting vote that said each year we should replace 2 computers, and kind of on this revolving thing. And then that I didn't really need 2 computers. But that all came out of, sometimes it came out of my incentive grant. Sometimes it was a capital plan, and sometimes it was just to make my requirements. So we would stick that money in my budget. Now that, we've taken most of the money out of the bottom line of my budget, and I have 2 computers still that I need to replace this year. And I can't do it as a capital expense. So, and now if we're like,
but Gene, we discussed this and we said that would come out of the IT budget.
Right. That's Caesar's budget, not yours.
Okay.
So we didn't tell you couldn't get the computers. We just reallocated around the budget. We had this conversation.
No, I know we had this conversation, but I'm just saying, moving forward, I feel like we're not looking at the whole picture, but,
well, and just to be clear, there were no capital requests submitted this year as well, right? For the library?
Because I didn't have capital requests, and computers aren't a capital request anymore. So I was going to put that in my budget.
$39,000 right now.
Right. That's correct, Frank.
And a potential to put another 20 to it in fiscal 25.
A lot of money.
It's the current intent.
Right.
which is why the network fees should be coming out of that for at least this fiscal year. Obviously, if something else changes, Gene, next year we can plan differently. But, to walk away with the $54,000 piggy bank and then looking to the town to supply the network fees, I think these are one of the situations where that amount of savings can help ameliorate some of the costs that we're looking for the town to supply to the library.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I think that was really it from your side, right, Gene? I think we went through all the items. Was there any questions for Gene on the committee?
So, I have a question. So going forward, because I noticed, we didn't approve the police or the fire, and I'm assuming you're not gonna approve this. So, going forward, do you approve it at a different meeting, or how do I know what budget's gonna be brought to town meeting?
So, Gene, what we started doing last year is Sandy and I will make a management recommended budget once all the departments have had an opportunity to present. And then we'll go through those recommendations, and then the finance committee will vote line item by line item. And if they want to make any changes to what we recommend, then they would ask for those changes and then take the vote. So we'll let everyone know what the final votes are with the budgets, probably sometime beginning of March.
Oh, it's about the beginning of March. Okay. Ellen, did you have anything else that you wanted to?
No, I mean, I've as I said, I'm just going to advocate for using town appropriated funds for ongoing utility expenses for the library. And, that would be definitely something to shoot for. And to use grant money, I'm unfamiliar with what the requests have been made in the past, but the grant money is supposed to be spent on sort of one-time expenses that come up, and not on ongoing operating budget expenses. But be that as it may.
But that's the thing, that money hasn't been spent.
That's it now.
So I guess that would be my question, Ellen, and perhaps you could help me understand, is the allocated money from the state to be spent within that fiscal year, or is it to be saved and carried over year over year?
It can be saved and carried over and spent on things that are not necessarily part of the operating budget. For instance, on programming and large expenditures like like a new presentation system in the community room. That would be the type of thing that we could spend the money on very safely and, in good conscience. So, I think as a new trustee, I think it'll be important to be looking at expenses that we should be using the grant money for, and try to wean the town off of it to be used as a source of utility. The network fees are really a utility. We're not even spending, we're only asking to spend a third of the network fees out of the appropriated funds, not even the full amount, which I find a little bit alarming. As someone who has worked with library budgets for 25 years. So, that would be a goal that I would set the trustees and the director, is to focus on weaning ourselves off of the grant money to be, as a source of income for an operating budget, and use it for what its intended purposes are. But if we can't do that this year,
we haven't done it for the last 2 years. So why is that?
I don't know, but I think that
we have done it the last 2 years. My network fees were taking some of my network fees we're taking out of the library budget. So we have been doing that since I've been doing library budgets, not splitting, but taking some money out of the library budget and taking some money out of the incentive grant. So we have been doing that.
I think Jim was referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Jim was referring to not using the state grant the past 2 years.
Correct. Correct. Thank you, Cody.
Oh, right. And I thought I explained that, but you know, in the past, honestly, before COVID hit, most of the incentive grant money was spent, only leaving, maybe I had $1,000 left over that just kind of rolled over.
Why do we stop spending it?
Because the library was closed for a while. You know, just things weren't happening for a while. It's only 2 years of money that I didn't spend. But now that we're back open, there's a new projector system that I want to buy, and who knows what else.
What's the cost of that, Jean? Have you
Caesar and I are working on that, and Caesar, you can pipe up, but it's going to be $6,000 or $7,000,
but that could be that's a capital request, right?
We don't need to use a capital request. That's the beauty of the grants. Is that we can spend it on things that will provide services to the communities in the library itself without making a request to the town.
Sure, that certainly makes sense. Did we not need a projection system last year?
The library desperately needs a new projection system.
So
did we not need one last year is the question.
No, we had one last year. It's just not working. This is better. This is an upgrade.
Do you want me to pipe in on the technical here?
No. Do I want you to do what?
Pipe in on the technical.
Yes, please.
So, Jim, the library in the community room does have a projection system. It's a brand equivalent to the smart board. You have the projector with a touchscreen panel and a stylus. And right now, it's like most projection systems, literal projectors, they're not as intuitive. The usability of it, at least in the library, is very manual. In order to really get the best effect out of it, or the most someone can get out of it is just use it as a projector. I mean, the full capability of it isn't even being used, and I can't explain as to why that is. I think that was outside of my time. But what we're looking to do is replace it with the interactive display that we got for the town hall, just one for the library.
Okay, so I understand what we have there currently, an overlay with a stylus. I get that.
Yep.
Is this just a recent issue that it's been not functioning and we need a new one, or is this something that most likely, and I'm just guessing here, should have been done last year?
My understanding, and Jean and Ellen can clarify or correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that it was a recent request by the Board of Trustees that they wanted to put something in that was a little more modern and intuitive. Last time that entire projection system was replaced, I believe, was in 2016.
Okay.
And the only issue that I'm aware of now is it's a simple, the HDMI port is just, it's just port issue. It keeps on pushing in and it's hard to connect. I have to keep on going in there to fix the actual jack. But, aside from that, the screen's working, everything's working, but it doesn't offer the more modern technology use that the library is looking to offer with its programs, such as hybrid programming or virtual programming.
So we want to modernize, basically, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that's my understanding. And Jean and Ellen can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and when I put that in, if it was 2016, the cost of that, I think the cost of that was probably $5,000. I mean, it was the first time we put that, like a whiteboard and that projector system into the community room. So we
And
spent,
that also included the sound system too, Gene.
and the sound system.
Right. Okay.
But all of that money came out of the incentive grant. That wasn't a cap, that the library paid for that out of their state aid.
And that's that's a very appropriate use for the state aid.
It seems like though you could hypothetically get 5 of them this year, right? And still, if you get 20,000 right this year, you'd still have funding left. If we were talking, you only had 10,000 in there, and we were asking you to annually spend 16, 17,000 out of it, I would completely be your biggest advocate of not utilizing it for that. But when you have almost 40,000 plus another 20 coming in, and the only thing you have lined up at this point is a $6,000 or $7,000 project, it doesn't seem like a concern at this point. Now in the future, it may be, definitely, from what you've described. I just don't think right now it's at least not a budgetary concern, because you can still move forward and do that. But that project, this won't impede that process whatsoever.
Right. And I agree with you, Cody. And that's why we just wanted to bring up the point that always having, taking the network fees out of the incentive grant, we think it sets a bad precedent. So, but I understand all about, the TME and trying to keep that, I understand where you're coming from, and it's just two different trains of thought, I think.
So just to be clear, the network fees are for the sales network, right?
Yes.
The library network. So we should probably rename that, because it can be a bit misleading. So it has nothing to do with Caesar, and it's not like they've got modems running in the back and they're paying a fee for that. So this is for the sales library network.
So,
Yes.
so Jim, well, technically those, it's a I think I'm saying the word consortium kind of thing.
Consortium fee. And it's basically a subscription.
Correct.
It's a subscription.
And it does include, because they handle all the E-rate. So the public internet that goes into the building, they handle that.
Okay.
So they all those, and they also have their own modem that they put in for their particular network, and then they have their own firewall that connects to our circulation software that they host and maintain.
Right.
So it does include all that, but there's still it's outside of what I'm responsible for. We have our own stuff for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And we're not looking at Mars or anything like that, or a larger network. Just sales is the only one we want to use.
Sales is a very large network.
Yeah.
It's actually the largest network in the state. We're very lucky to belong to sales, actually.
Okay.
It's very robust.
All right.
All right. Any other questions from anyone? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay. All right. So then, it's getting back to the agenda here. So the next item was reserve fund transfer request, which I haven't received any. There was the open question though, Sandy, about the account number on the previous one. Did you have a chance to take a look at that, I guess?
Right. That account number is not accurate. That Jim, I looked it up and it was not accurate.
Okay.
But usually I catch that when I go to put it in. And I had an answer for you, and I do have the correct number, which I can send that to you.
Yeah, if you want to just you're gonna recirculate, I guess, a new sheet, I guess, for us to sign, Sandy.
I don't think it's necessary to recirculate a new sheet, because it is going to the actually what we'll be doing, we're going to set up a separate number, because we want to keep that money separate. It's coming from the water reserve fund, so it's coming from the enterprise fund. So if there's money left over in that account, it will go back to the water department. at the end of the year,
Okay,
once it's closed out, because that's where the money came from. So
yeah,
I will be setting up a separate account number for it.
okay.
If you want to go ahead and sign the sheet as it is, and then I'll correct the number when it comes back, or if you
Yeah, that's
want to
fine.
wait,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I think that works, Sandy. Yeah, you can just update it on
Okay.
the sheet, I guess.
Great.
Bill and Cheryl, I guess, are you able to
I
sign
can't.
electronically? Or?
I can't do it electronically. I've tried. So
Okay,
I'll have to come in and do it.
You
Yeah,
have
what
to come
about-
in and visit me, that's all.
What about
Okay,
you, Bill? Have you tried? Or?
I can sign electronically, yep.
Okay, so Bill, once you sign, so if you can sign that tonight, I guess, Bill, if you wouldn't mind, and then once I have that,
tomorrow.
yeah, I'll send it off to you tonight, Sandy, and then we'll just be missing Cheryl's signature, and you can maybe just print that off and have her sign, and then you'll have it all on one sheet, I guess.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, okay, all right, awesome. Okay, all right, so that was that. Actually, next up was the opera fund review. Cody, did you have a chance to go through that?
We did. So Sandy and I sat down. We are looking at right now, we have $185,712 left. And which about 50,000 of that has to specifically be used for one of the allowed purposes as far as water, support of the public health response, broadband, sewer infrastructure. So we do have a few things that we've thought of. The fire departments, actually, Todd, this was brought up at the Capitol meeting. Scott had submitted the capital request at the time for the HVAC work over there. But there's some HVAC work that needs to be done over at the fire department. Our thought was we can actually put that under support the public health response because it's HVAC work. So we may look to get that submitted. The process is the select board has to approve it, and then we can submit it to Plymouth County for reimbursement. And a few other things we're thinking about. There may be some, Frank, you had brought up potentially using this for some of the turnout gear for the fire department, what they're looking for. There may be an opportunity to do some of that. We're looking at it. What we would like to try to do, particularly with the turnout gear, because that needs to be on a more regular cycle. We'd like to try to get a lot of that into capital and just capital rotation. But it's definitely something maybe since this initial one is so large, we can look to possibly use some of that to supplement it.
Yeah, because that's a big number he had there for that turnout gear,
22,000. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not. That's just warming up. It was like 23 sets of gear. It's going to have to be changed out in the next couple of years.
Well, yeah, he's trying to get the 2 sets for each employee, basically. So that what we looked at tonight, that's just in his budget, and that's just to pick up new joiners, which, as we saw and discussed, that's going to be eaten up right away by the shift from the part-time to the full-time employees. So, so essentially, that's already will be spent, right? It's already earmarked, I guess, for that specifically. So, doesn't even allow much wiggle room there.
Right.
We are also trying to keep in mind, if you've been following, we've had some water concerns over at the elementary school. We're working steadily to identify what the remediation efforts may look like there. And that obviously is a top priority. So as we identify that over the next few months, that may be something to utilize this funding for and be able to just move forward right away rather than, having to go to town meeting, get the approval.
We're talking potable water?
Yeah, we have some lead concerns over there, Frank.
Is that associated with probably the piping versus the wells?
It's not a town-wide issue. It's definitely, so it's definitely not associated with the wells. It's, somewhere between, the street or
yeah, we got a line in there that's probably a lead line.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they're looking at all the options, but it's very, very, very challenging to identify a single source. But they're working on it. So we have to have this committed by the end of this calendar year, and then we have until the end of 2026 to spend it. So, but I'm very confident we'll have it committed by the end of this year.
Now, what about the whole ADA compliance there? I know, we gave funding or whatever for Scott to kind of work on a number of projects, and I think he's pretty busy with that, I guess. But what do we anticipate, I guess, is the additional spend, I guess, to can any of this money be used for that, I guess, as well as a secondary question?
I wouldn't recommend it because the Scott is kind of already spending everything he can right now. And time is somewhat of the essence with this funding. And it may be better utilization for this, where ADA, we know we have to do it. It's on Scott's capital plan. He has 500,000 that, that'll last him a couple of years to work through it. So, and we just don't know what the additional cost would be beyond that because it's so far out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So basically, we should probably be hanging on to this 185 for a little bit, seeing what's going to happen at the elementary school.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we're keeping in mind. If something comes up where it seems like this is a good fit, really, the ARPA, we will certainly consider it. And as we get closer, right, if we still don't have answers at the schools, or if at the school, or if we've identified it and been able to fix it relatively in a cost-effective way, then we can look at reallocating this to a different source. Because we certainly don't want to lose it. One of the things where Sandy and I have discussed is the water department. They're undergoing those upgrades. We did already allocate 600,000 to that project. If we get to a point, right, where we need to get this money allocated, we could always bump up our allocation from ARPA. That project fits it, perfectly, what they're looking for. So there's definitely plenty of opportunities, and we'll definitely won't have an issue spending it, prior to our deadline or allocating it.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the?
We're going to use about 50,000 of that. We have to use that for public health work, $50,000 worth.
That's one of the categories, Frank. It can be under water and sewer infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, negative economic impacts as a result of COVID, or support the public health response.
Okay. So we really got about 135,000 to work with if we have to do something over at the school.
Yes. Yeah.
And when there's some money out there, federal government had out there for lead piping, the schools and stuff from the Flint, Michigan situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, we're still working to identify what even needs to be done. We really don't know.
Yeah.
They're testing, retesting, maybe fixture, I don't even want to begin to speculate because it's just right. I'm not sure. But once we have identified or begun to identify, then we can start implementing.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
All right. So then moving on, I guess, on the agenda, the next item up was the Association of Town Finance Committee Spring Conference. So that's been scheduled for, let me see here, Saturday, April 6th. And that runs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And this year it's going to be held at the Pine Ridge Country Club. That's out in Oxford. So like out by Worcester area there. So it's a little bit of a drive. But if, if folks are available and want to attend, we can certainly do that. I did talk to them today. They're going to release the registration link in the next couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. And then I also asked about gender topics and things of that nature. So they're very much still, working on that. So nothing to share at this moment. But they plan on having that together in the next couple of weeks. So once that's released, I'll share it with you all. So between now and then, I guess if you want to just think about, whether or not you would like to attend, and then, once we have the agenda and stuff, we can, make a decision of who wants to attend and that kind of thing. So maybe we take this off, I guess, Katie, for next week, but we can put it back on in a couple of weeks once the further details are released and I'll circle back with you all to see who wants to attend there. So we do have money in the budget to cover it. So, so if people are interested in going, then we can certainly do that. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of network with some other towns as well, right through the session. And I know Cheryl's gone a few years ago and had positive, feedback on the conference. So more to come there. Any questions, I guess, or comments or anything on that at all? No? Okay. All right. Committee liaison is next on the agenda. I think we can skip that. I know you're at the meeting for the bylaw updates later this month, right? So, and not much in the way of capital planning. So nothing to really communicate there. Correspondence, I haven't received any. Has anyone else received any correspondence from anyone? No? Okay. All right. As may arise, any other topics for this evening? No? Okay. Hearing none, I guess. Next item on the agenda was the public participation, which looks like other than Chief, we don't really have anyone from the public still on. So I think we're good there. And then the last the last item on the agenda is the next meeting planning. So, we do have our weekly meeting, so we're back to Monday, obviously next week at 6 p.m. And then Cody, I think the wage and personnel session was earmarked for Tuesday, right? Is that still the case? Is that
Yes,
set in stone?
It is, and I'll get the proposals out to you guys probably tomorrow. The only one really of substance is mine, the one I'm submitting, and just kind of cleaning up the bylaw and a 2% COLA. And we received one other that is from the library that we can discuss, but it's unnecessary. I don't think we need to move forward with it, but we'll discuss it at the hearing.
Okay, yeah, if you could share them in advance of the meeting, that'd be helpful just for everyone to take
absolutely
through them. I actually have a conflict that night on Tuesday, though. I won't be able to attend. So Cheryl, you'll have to just run the session.
I have to check my work schedule. I'm not sure. I think I have to work till 7, and I work in Kingston. So I have to look.
Okay. Is there any opportunity to push that, Cody, or?
No, it's a public hearing, so we have to advertise. We had to advertise 2 weeks in advance.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have to work till 7. Yeah, I won't make it.
Okay. What about the rest of you, Frank, Bill, Michael, Jim?
I'm available.
I'll be there.
I'm available.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have a quorum.
All right. So I guess, Michael, I guess you would be next in the chain of command, I guess, if you wouldn't mind running.
No problem. No problem.
And we'll try to make sure we get EJ there
No.
as well. So then you'll have at least, 5, which would be good. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't anticipate you guys voting on the proposals. We'll try to schedule another meeting after that.
Yeah,
even
sure.
maybe Zoom. The only thing I think I'm going to put on there is to vote on a new review process, performance evaluation. I don't know which form we have now. Everyone uses a different form in town. Every department has a different form. So I want to just adopt a one form for everyone to use. That can be the official form of the town, and have departments utilize that. So, and other than that, we can just have a meeting after it and go over to vote on the actual proposals.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll watch the recording on Zoom online afterwards, so we can get caught up. And like I said too, if you share the materials in advance, can read through those. Apologize, I definitely was fully attending and being there, but I had a last minute conflict pop up, so unfortunately I can't make it. So apologies for that.
And unfortunately, it's tax season, and I work Tuesday and Thursday nights till 7 or 8. So I'm good on Monday nights or Wednesday night. Tuesday and Thursday I can't till tax season's done.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll make note of that, Cheryl. Thanks. Okay.
But I'm not going to make Monday's meeting.
No. Okay.
I'll be on an airplane.
Hopefully somewhere warm.
Yeah, well, it's not too warm down where I'm going, it seems, but
no.
It's warmer than here, but not by much. I'm already committed. So I'll be coming in on Monday afternoon about 5:40 or so. So I don't think I'm going to be able to jump
Okay.
in.
All right. Yeah, no problem, Frank. Thanks for the heads up.
But I will be there on Tuesday. And Cody, I got that link for Thursday's meeting, so I should be good to go to get on for that.
Okay, good. So next week we'll have building maintenance in to go over his budget. Water is going to come in the week after, right, Sandy? And then we have tentatively scheduled some dates with the school department. Jim, I sent that off to you. And they're going to come into the full finance committee on March 18th.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the budget. I'm curious just with all the positions they want to add. I just want to see where
to give you an idea, they had a meeting and it's public, so I can share this now.
Yeah.
Our proposed increase between the elementary school and Silver Lake is $1.6 million.
Wow.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah. $3.5 million increase in our assessment and almost $2 million decrease in the elementary school budget as a result of kind of the reorganization, but it's still, over a 10% increase. We can't absorb that.
Wow.
No, we can't.
More to follow, but yeah, that is public. So they discussed it at their meeting on Thursday.
Wow. I gotta know.
Batter up, Jim.
Sure.
Dude, I haven't even gotten started on that yet.
All right, so that'll be March 18th, Cody.
It is. And so other than, like I said, we have building maintenance coming in next week. We'll have water the week after.
Okay.
Anyone else that you'd like to have in that I've missed?
I think those are the main ones, but any others that have any material movement, I guess, right? Obviously, we'd want to just kind of, review those, but it's nothing I can think of off the top of my head, I guess, that would, fall into that case situation, I guess. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything. So March 11th, I guess. I have to travel for work that week, so I'll be gone those first few days, 11th and the 12th. So I definitely won't be able to make the March 11th meeting. So if we could try to not schedule anything that one, and I would like to actually try to propose that we take that week off, or maybe move it to later that week, but maybe just skip it, I guess, particularly if we're kind of narrowing down the last few budgets and we have the 20th.
I think that's reasonable. I think you could take the 11th off.
Okay.
Schools come in the 18th. I think it's 18th.
Yeah. So if we have any others, maybe we can just add those into that meeting as well, I guess. Go ahead, Cheryl, you have a question?
Do we have an amount for free cash? Did I miss it?
No, we don't have an amount yet, Cheryl.
Okay. I thought maybe I missed it.
We're working on it. Yeah.
Okay.
There was also a little question around the veterans budgets. What did we determine there?
Yeah.
Well, depends on who you ask. What we determined. I think.
Okay.
I'll go through and tell you what my recommendation is. I can tell you my recommendation is about 50% of what was requested, but I can't justify what was requested.
Weren't we kind of looking at maybe using a regional office, I guess, to kind of do those services?
Yeah, I think that would be more probably not fiscal 25, maybe something like fiscal 26 if we wanted to explore further. Bridgewater and Rainham were a little bit deeper into discussions or in the process than I had realized. So I don't think it would work for 25. To be, I think what we have set up works. It's just the compensation aspect that we're trying to work through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, I guess, on the upcoming meeting schedule? Everyone else good with the upcoming dates and such?
Yeah, so are we gonna go ahead and cancel the 11th, Todd, or?
I would like to, I guess, unless there's any objections from anyone, or but I think we'll plan to meet. What's today? The 20th, so we'll meet the 26th.
4th.
Well, sorry. What was the one you said for next week? What budget, Cody? Sorry.
So
Building
next
maintenance.
week,
Building
building maintenance,
maintenance.
and then the week after, which would be the 4th.
4th, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Water.
Yeah, and then the school the 18th. Yeah, so I would, I guess, like to recommend that we just skip the 11th, give everybody a week. We've kind of been going, weekly anyways too, so it'd be good, especially with the double meetings with the wage and personnel that you guys will have. Give a little break in between there, I guess. Do the school on the 18th, and then I guess we need to schedule the meeting though too, Cody, right, with the selectmen and stuff. Were we looking to do that? I guess.
So we should. Why don't we plan to do March 26th if that works for you guys? The plan is at the March 26th meeting to approve the warrant, because we actually have to get the warrant out that next week. So we'll need to have a finalized budget at that point. So then you guys will have a hopefully fully voted budget. You can present it to the board, go over it. If there's any questions, discuss it.
Would you be able to make that one, Cheryl, or?
It's a Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm scheduled, but I can see about getting it off.
I mean, if not, let me know. I'm sure the board would be amenable to, maybe a Wednesday or something that week.
Yeah, Wednesdays work better. Monday or Wednesday works better. It's like I said, it's end of tax time, so it's crazy.
All right. Well, why don't I make a note and see, does Wednesday work for everyone else, the 27th?
Yeah.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good on the 27th.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will, why don't you, if you guys can tentatively mark that down, I'll check with the selectmen and see if they're available.
Okay.
And then, we'll plan to have a joint meeting, 6 PM on the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that sounds better, Cody, yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll pencil that down, I guess, yeah, if you could just let us know, I guess, once you confirm it. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, all right, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you, Michael, thank you, Cheryl. Roll call vote, Frank,
Yes, to adjourn?
Jim,
Yes to adjourn.
Michael,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Motion carries 6-0. Meeting is adjourned at sorry, what time is it?
7:57.
7:57. Yep. All right, thanks
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Have a
Thank
great
All
day.
right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good.